Hello, hello, this is Squatch Mom, and we are along a gulch road that we'd explored a couple of weeks ago, and it is a prime spot. It is out in the middle of nowhere, and there goes Caspian. Come on back, Caspian! He is having a blast, and I have Travis, and I have Sam, and we're going to have a barbecue dinner, maybe explore the woods, but boy, it's a great place now. Oh, and over that way is Pikes Peak. So we can't bring our camper in here. If we ever want to camp here, we're going to have to do tent camping. So we are just going to see what happens, try to de-stress from all the things that stress us out and have fun. All right, we'll see what happens. So we were just finishing up our snack and we had a bit of a disaster happen. That tree limb came crashing down from up there, and unfortunately our truck was parked underneath it. And this is what it did. So we're kind of sad about that, but hopefully it can be fixed easily. We got to take our truck into our mechanic tomorrow anyway. We'll see what happens, but what a bummer. All right, well, second disaster. We apparently either lost the propane tank out of the truck or it wasn't put in the first place. It's been a very stressful day. So it's very easy to think that you've done something and you haven't. I guess we get to do things the old-fashioned way. At least we have a good iron skillet. And Sam is very good with fires. So, first we're gonna go explore in these woods. Trying to leave all of the stresses behind. Not beat ourselves up for what we did or didn't do. Lead on, Sam. But I'll tell you one thing about this place, there is nobody around. And I mean nobody. Yeah, I know, I've seen footprints and disturbances. We just got it on recording, yeah!
You did?
Yep. That is Travis's famous sneeze.
Got it.
Yep.
On record.
Got it on record.
So, I bet we don't need to look for Sasquatch yet.
We've either scared them away or they're very curious. Huh. Well, where are exactly we going?
I don't know. It's kind of rough that way.
Well, it's kind of rough anyway. Anywhere. I forgot my sticks, of course. See, I forget things too. Okay, we'll say that's the third disaster because usually things come in threes.
Which was third?
Me forgetting my sticks. Oh, and while Sam's standing here, he has some new gear. Would you explain your new gear that you found at a surplus store?
Just a belt and suspenders to carry more stuff.
Turn around. Yeah. He's got 2 canteens and all sorts of pockets to put things in, including his bullets. Pretty cool. Much lighter than the backpack he was carrying. Yep. All right, lead on, Sam. So we came back down and went to this draw. Sam didn't like going on a tilt on the side of the hill. And Travis is back up at our base. He got tired of it, but we have walkie-talkies, which is always a smart thing to do. So anyway, yeah, I don't know how much longer we're gonna stay down here because we have to cook dinner on a fire. That's gonna be interesting. All right, well, we'll see what happens. I found a few columbines. That's a state flower in Colorado. Very beautiful. Well, we came down to the creek. The dog is having a great time in there. Oh boy. And then this is quite the puzzle here. That is an interesting weave, almost like an X right there. I find that extremely interesting. All right, I don't know how much longer though I can go. Oh, and Sam thought he heard a tree knock. All right, well, we'll see what happens. All right, we're heading toward the road, I guess, rather than go back up that hill. So I kind of wonder if it's going to take us longer. We'll see. All right, we decided to go back the way we came. It wasn't clear to Sam where the road was, so we'd rather get back sooner than later. Now we head back. We got to get up this hill. That is not going to be fun. All right, well, we came up that. We're back to the road. Very tired and winded. So now we're going, or Sam is going to start the fire. I'm going to see about cooking these hamburgers on the fire. It's very interesting, but I need to sit down and drink. Feels like my whole canteen, which is also falling apart. It's made of plastic, of course. All right. So, but you know, it is a good idea to just sit by a fire and relax, because really, Sasquatches are most likely, or more likely to come to us than we find them. So it's okay. And Sam and I went on a really long hike on Friday, and we're both tired and sore. All right, so, I'm looking forward to sitting down. Our hamburgers are sizzling thanks to the ingenuity of Sam. It might take a while, but there they are. We really had to do survival skills tonight. There is a red light over there, and I think it's part of the sky for the sunset, but Sam says it's not, and there are strange lights that come on in the woods sometimes. So I don't know which one of us is right, but we're eating our yummy hamburgers, but Sam lost one. But we joked that it was a sacrifice to Val, like as in Star Trek. Anyway, I'm pretty convinced that that is actually the skyline, or the, horizon. And the light is peeking through the trees. But we will see. Yeah, here it is from a better vantage point, and to me, that just looks like the sky, the reflection from the sunset. Okay, so Sam has this idea where we're going to share semi-spooky Bigfoot stories that we make up on the fly, since we're sitting in very spooky woods and it's very quiet. So why not? All right, go ahead.
According to local legend, There was a man who lived in the woods all by himself. Kind of like these. Or perhaps a little more remote than this. And I believe it was about 1970. So anyways, this man was known to kind of like be an early homesteader or something. You know, sort of the trend these days is to, you know, get off the grid and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So he was known and stuff, and I'm gonna stop to listen every once in a while. So he's quite well known to the community, and the community found it very strange. One day he disappeared. He didn't come into town as he usually did every, few times a month. Since he would need supplies. So they went looking for him. And they went to his cabin, and they didn't find much of a cabin. They found a burning hulk. So that was strange. Luckily that didn't cause a forest fire. And so they looked at his other known spots, and they couldn't find him either, so the community got themselves a posse or whatever to search for him. And so they collected a group of a search party of about a dozen people, and they spread out into groups of about groups of 3 or something like that. And it was going, you know how any search party goes. They weren't finding much, but it was not disastrous yet until 3 people disappeared again. And so that got the attention of local authorities. And so they went searching for the searchers. And then one more person went missing. After that, they called off the original search party. And law enforcement got involved, looking for both the man and the 4 people. But since the now most recently missing persons were even more, well, obviously family members and such and friends, the community could not handle that and also went out searching for them. But the incident that is most famous in the situation, or is, I guess, the focal point of the story. So anyways, the focal point of the story is this. About a group of 6 people, mostly relatives of the missing searchers, go out at about 6 in the morning. And this time they don't spread out. Because, as we know, the original search party spread to groups of 3, and 4 people disappeared. So bearing that in mind, they decided we're going to stay in a group of 6. So they went to the area where the first 3 people disappeared. They found nothing, unfortunately. They went to the other place where one of the people disappeared. They managed to find, let's see, I believe it was some, I think they found a hat. So that was the first clue. That was perhaps an encouraging sign. But that was the only sign they would find that day. They would find a lot of other signs, though. They found broken tree limbs, they found turned over rocks, and what just looked like rage or something. And so, having discovered some clues, they decided they would make camp and wait out the night. That was a mistake, because the first night, the whole night, or about 3 straight hours, something was roaring and banging on something for like 3 hours, like, and then splashing in water, like, so that wasn't pleasant. And the night was quiet. So come morning, something very unexpected happened. The one missing person returns safe and sound, just sort of like, oh, what are you doing here? He's like, oh, I was looking for the guy. I'm fine. And they're like, okay, let's get out of here. So they get in their car, and they're going down the road, and the road is blocked by a fallen tree. Several fallen trees. So they try going the other way. There might have been another way out. And they found that the road is also blocked. So in desperation, they go the other way, which is closer to civilization, get out of their car, and continue on foot. Now, strangely, they decide that 2 people should go ahead and the other 3 would wait. Maybe they get some transport or something. So 2 people leave. They get to civilization, they get a vehicle. And they never find the 3 people again. The end.
The end. Okay.
Now it's your turn.
Oh, jeez. I don't know.
It wouldn't be fair if I had to do it only.
Yeah, but...
You can make it shorter.
Oh my gosh. What do? I have no idea. Let me think about this. All right, I guess it's my turn. So I'm going to say that a little girl named Fiona was traveling with her family across the Great Plains and they were going through the Dakota territories. And so, after days and days and weeks of going through the prairie, they started getting into these hills. And they were grand hills with lots of forests. And they knew that if they kept going, that eventually they would get to Oregon and settle down. So they get to the forest and they camp, and then they had driven very late, and by the time they got dinner, it was dark. And so they're sitting around the campfire, and then all of a sudden they hear a woo. Now, nobody knew what that was. Nobody had ever heard something like that. They were from Pennsylvania, and there were bears, and there were, the father was a hunter, like every man was back then, and he knew what the animals sounded like, and it was nothing like anything that they had ever heard. It wasn't a wolf, it wasn't a cougar, it wasn't a bear. So the father said for the kids to sleep under the wagon, and they got their quilts, and they nestled down for the night, and the father stood around the fire all night, guarding his little family, because he and his wife also had a 1-year-old boy. And so he's guarding the family, and he's trying around the fire, and he's got his rifle, and he's fighting sleep because he had driven all day long, that wagon, on the bumpy roads. And then he looked into the distance, and he saw a pair of lights. And he knew there were eyes, but he almost thought he was falling asleep and he had to rub his own eyes and see, but they were still there, and he heard this huffing noise. So he got up and he stoked the fire and made it bigger, and he walked around the perimeter guarding his family. And then an hour or so later, he hears some wolves. And he knew they were wolves. But in those wolves, he heard a strange howl that he had never heard before. And then, this was to the south, but then in the north, he heard another howl. And it sounded like they were communicating back and forth. But then that died down, and he kept by the fire, trying not to fall asleep. And all of a sudden, a pine cone landed on him. And then another. And he heard a grunt. And then he took his torch, because of course they didn't have flashlights back then. Lanterns, yes, right, thank you. They had a lantern. So he held his lantern way up high, and he saw an outline of a dark figure that was human-like, that was standing on 2 legs. It was not a bear. It could not have been a bear. And it was 8 foot tall. And in the light of the lantern, he could see it looking at him, and he looked at it, and they both had never seen anything like the other. And the man felt this horrible sense of dread come over him because of the unknown and this apparent monster in the woods. But his little girl, unbeknownst to him, had woken up. And she saw this creature. And right away she knew that this creature was not something to be scared of. And so softly she got out of her covers and she started to go toward it. And then, unbeknownst to the creature, a smaller one started to come toward this little girl. And they both met outside of the firelight. Neither parent saw them. And they immediately became friends, like they were kindred spirits. But then there was a roar in the distance. And the mother, or the creature, who is obviously this little guy's mother, turned her head sharply and howled back. And everybody at that point woke up and heard this horrible howl. And the little guy, the little creature, ran back to his mother, and Fiona ran back to her mother. And the father built up the fire more because he figured they couldn't go anywhere. If they went anywhere, they'd just be even in more danger. So everybody got up and they stood by the fire, and the man paced with his gun. And then a rock came and landed just a few feet from the dad. And then a pine cone. And they didn't know what they were going to do. They just stood by the fire until the wee morning light came in. And then they saw that the creature that was by the fire with the young one was guarding them all night. And they left, and the family packed up quickly, and they got out of those woods, and they never told anyone, because who would believe that they saw these hairy monsters, hairy men, out in the woods in the Dakota Territory. Okay, so we have told our stories, we have eaten our dinner, we have listened, didn't really hear anything, which I find interesting that we've had more experiences closer to town than way out here. But this was only our first time, and who knows. So anyway, we are going home. We have a lot to do tomorrow, so away we go from the woods. And we are going home to go to bed and see what tomorrow brings. Check out next time, my next episode hopefully is going to be about our adventure over 4th of July. So we plan a camp out, and there's a scary monster in here. Yeah. There's a very scary bug. All right, yes. Okay. Okay, wait, just one more second. All right, so that's all because we're being bugged by a bug. This is Squatch Mom. Have a Squatch-tastic day.
We're bugging out. Bugging out.
That was perfect.